Seventh grade lesson 12.1 is probability. We're going to get into talking about the measuring of probability. We're going to start off with talking about how to find the likelihood that something will happen. So let's imagine that we have a number cube with 6 sides, numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, the normal dice that you would roll, just one of those. And let's say you roll it and it lands face up. They call that an event. That is the one moment where you did that. This has you working with a partner, but we're just kind of working through this together to decide how many of the 6 possible results on that die of a rolling cube match the described event. And they want us to order the events from least likely 1 to most likely 9 by writing a number in each box to the right. So I'm going to put this down here. So on a scale of 1 to 9, how likely will it be, if we roll that dice, that we roll a number that's less than 7? Well, since there's only a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6 on that number cube, and all of those numbers are less than 7 already, then I would say it's very likely, in fact it's certain, that I'm not rolling any number that's 7 or larger. So I'm going to rate that as a 9. You see how that worked? What are the chances of rolling an 8? That's just not going to happen, right? There's not an 8 on the side. It doesn't exist. None. There's no 8 on the 6-sided cube. So if my scale is 1 to 9, I'm going with the lowest value, least likely 1. Okay, what are my chances of rolling a number greater than 4? Well, on that number cube, the only numbers greater than 4 are 5 and 6. So that's 2 out of the 6 options. 2 out of the 6 options. So they're not highly likely. I mean, it can happen. So it's more on the least likely side if let's say 5-ish was in the middle. It can happen, but it's not likely. It's gonna be somewhere in here, 3 or 4 or something like that. 3-ish chance. What about rolling a 5? There's only one 5 on there, so I have a 1 out of 6 chance. That's less likely than this guy, right? Let's say that's maybe a 2. It can happen, but it's not very likely. What about rolling a number other than 6? Well, what are my numbers other than 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 out of 6 possibilities. That's really pretty high up here in chances. I have a good chance, maybe an 8-ish. 8-ish chance that can happen. What is my likelihood of rolling an even number? Okay, what are my even number options? 2, 4, and 6. That is 3 out of the 6 possibilities. Right in the middle there, 5-ish, 4 or 5-ish chance. What about rolling a number less than 5? Well, what are my possibilities for that? 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's 4 out of 6 possibilities. That's pretty likely. We might be in this area over here. Maybe a 6. What are my chances of rolling an odd number? My odd number possibilities are 1, 3, and 5. That is 3 out of 6 chance. When we were 3 out of 6 chance up here, we called it a 5. It's right in the middle there, 4 or 5-ish. And what are the chances of rolling a number divisible by 3? Oh, okay, numbers that are divisible by 3. 3 is, and 6 is. And that's it. So 2 out of 6 chance. What did we call 2 out of 6 last time? Here we go. We said 3-ish is a chance on a scale of 1 to 9. Are any of these events impossible? Well, this one was impossible, right? You can't roll an 8 on a 6-sided cube. Was there any others? No, that was just that one. So we'll put that down. Rolling an 8 was impossible. So this was just getting our brains wrapped around rating the likelihood of something happen. And likelihood and probability really go hand in hand. Let's look a little further into the lesson. Okay, and we get really deeply into some vocabulary here that goes along with this. So I'll walk you through the vocabulary and then we'll get into measuring those probabilities. An experiment. That's an activity involving the chance in which the results are observed. So any activity where chance is involved, and then we try it out to see what sort of results we get. Trial is each step of that observation of the experiment. So each trial is each trial, each rendition of it. The outcome is the result we get on each of those trials. You record it every time. The event is a set of one or more outcomes. So you would have tried it several times and you will have several outcomes. The event is the set of the outcomes altogether. And probability, and it's written as the probability of event. So probability of the event is how I read that. It measures the likelihood that the event will occur at all. And we measure that on a scale of 0 to 1, where 0 is absolutely impossible that it can happen, and 1 is absolutely certain that it's going to happen. So our range of things, of numbers that we would come up in terms of probability are going to be either a fraction, decimal, or a percent is how those will come out. So let's have a look at probability happening. Okay, and here's that scale again. Impossible would be a 0 chance. Certain would be a 1. Absolutely, that's going to happen. As a decimal, 0 is a decimal. Is that 1 as a decimal is 1.0. Percents, 0%, 100%. Equally likely. It could happen, could not happen. It's equal chance. And you hear us say this all the time, 50-50 chance. There's 50% chance it's going to happen, 50% chance it's not going to happen. So that'll help you remember. It's half the chance that it could either way. 0.5 as a decimal, as you well know, 50%. So it can be written in any of these ways. If it's more unlikely, it's going to be a smaller fraction than that, like 1/4 or 1/6. If it's much more likely, it will be a larger fraction than that, like 2/3 maybe. If it's unlikely as a decimal, it will be a smaller decimal, 0.25 maybe. And if it's more likely, it might be in between here, 0.75 maybe. So that's how the range kind of goes. Let's see events and see how you come up with the numbers, and you can determine whether they are likely or less likely or more likely. So our first event would be that we roll a 6-sided number cube, like a dice, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what are the chances of us rolling that cube and getting a number that is larger than 1? Well, let's think of our possibilities when we roll that. We can roll a 1. We can roll a 2. We can roll a 3. We can roll a 4. We can roll a 5. Or we can roll a 6. Those are what we can roll. And the question, I have to correct that question. The question was roll a 6-sided number cube and the number is 1 or greater. It can be 1 or it can be larger. Well, all of those are either 1 or they are larger, right? So there is a 6 out of 6 chance that I'm rolling that. 6 divided by 6, of course, is 1. And that is a certainty. So there's a certain chance that it's 100% chance I'm rolling a number that's 1 or larger on a 6-sided number cube. All right, well, let's look at another one. What's the chance, or what's the probability that you roll 2 number cubes and the sum of the number is 3? So I have 2 cubes. So there's my 2 number cubes. What are the chances that I roll it and when you add them together you get 3? Well, as far as all the potential chances I have 6 chances of what I can roll here, 6 chances of what I can roll here, and I can do all kinds of combinations within it. So there's a total of 36. 6 times 6, 36 possible outcomes for that. But for how many of them could be 3, I could only have this one be a 1 and this one be a 2. That's one possibility. Or I could have this one be a 2 and this one be a 1. That's the other possibility. And that's it. There's 2 out of 36 chance. We are talking about hardly any, pretty much impossible. In fact, if I divided 2 divided by 36, I'm going to get like 0.05 or something like that. So I may as well just call it almost impossible, like right close to impossible. Let's look at a third example. Let's say I have a bowl filled with discs, pretend those are discs, that are numbered 1 through 10. And I'm going to pull a disc out. What are the chances, what's the probability that I'm going to pull an odd number out? Well, out of all my chances, I have 10 possibilities. And out of those 10 possibilities, how many of those are odd? Remember, they were numbered 1 through 10. Well, odd numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Those are all the odd numbers. There are 5 of them. So 5 out of 10 chance that those come out as an odd number. I can reduce that fraction. That's 1/2 a chance. So 1/2, 50-50 chance, right? 50%, it might be an odd number. And so the next part talks about how we find probability. And you already kind of saw me using this calculation to do it. The probability of an event can be found by taking the number of times the event occurs or can occur and dividing it by the total number of equally likely possible outcomes. So total outcomes that are possible, so possible is your denominator, the times it happens or the number of times it can potentially happen, that would be your numerator, and you would just do the division or reduce the fraction, leave it as a fraction, that's fine too. So let's use that. What is the probability of rolling an even number on a standard number cube? Again, that's a dice. There we go. What's the probability of doing an even number how many possibilities are there on a number cube? There are 6. Of those 6, how many of those numbers are even? Remember, there's 2, 4, and 6. That's 3 of them. 3 out of the 6 are possible to be even. I can reduce that fraction because 3 divides evenly into both 3 and into 6. So my probability is 1/2. That's how you find the probability. The last part of this lesson just talks about using the complement of an event. Complement of an event means the set of all outcomes that are not included in the events. So when we were looking at the previous example of the number cube, what was the probability of rolling an even number? Well, the probability of that, or the event, was 2, 4, and 6 were the possibilities for the even, right? The complement of that is the opposite of that, the odds, 1, 3, and 5. Those aren't going to happen, right? And that's what the complement is. And what they're saying here is if you take the probability of the event happening and add it to the probability of the complement, the opposite of that happening, then you would end up with 1. Remember, probability is either 0, not going to happen at all, ever impossible, or 1, certainly going to happen, no doubt. Well, that makes sense, right? If you take all the possibilities and you add it to all the non-possibilities, then one of those is going to happen for certain. Let's see this calculation happen with an example because I think that makes it make more sense. So let's say we have 2 red jacks in a standard deck of 52 cards. So 2 red jacks as a card in a deck of 52 cards. What's the probability of not drawing a red jack if you're selecting one card at random? Well, I have my probability out of 52 cards, 2 of them are red. So the probability of pulling those 2 is 2 out of 52. The opposite of that would be the complement. And we know that there's a 51 is 52 out of 52, right? There's deck of cards 52, and the number 1 is represented as a fraction. A number over its own self is still 1. Well, if I wanted to know what the complement of that, because it's the not happening, I could use inverse operations to isolate my variable, in this case, the variable being the probability of the complement. and I'm left with that. 52 minus 2 is 50. Out of 52, I have a 50 out of 52 chance that I am not going to pull the jack. So it's just the opposite. You could reason it out in your brain as well, but complement of the probability is the chances that are not possible is all that is. So that's what this is. Mostly just remember, you're really looking at a fraction of what are my possibilities over, or what are my chances for whatever event I'm looking for specifically out of all the possible outcomes that would be there. And then keep it a fraction, reduce it, or divide it for a decimal and a percent. That's pretty much all you're doing through this whole lesson. Good luck.